Okay, so I just wanted to give you a quick overview of how to work with cells. This is really straightforward stuff, but it's really important too. So here I'm clicked into cell A1, and if I double click, you can see that the cursor appears on the left hand side of the cell. So I can now type into that cell. Let's say I type the word hello. Now, until I hit enter or click out of this cell, Excel does not know that I'm finished typing in this cell. So you can see that all of these buttons across the top have been grayed out. So if I want to color in the cell or make everything in the cell bold or change the font or anything like that, I can't do that until I finish typing in the cell. And you'd be surprised at how few people know that. I see a lot of people who will just leave themselves clicked in a cell like this without actually hitting enter. So if I hit enter now, you see it moves on to the next cell in the sheet. Once you've typed in your cell, there's some really easy formatting options at the top here that you will have seen already in programs like Word or your email program, anything like that. So you've got your very straightforward bold, italic, underline, select your font and font size, and your cell color. So that will actually color in the entire cell. So if I click on the hello that we've just entered, that's a single click, not a double click. And I can select from any of these colors, or if I wanted to, I could create my own color. So I'm going to color that in sort of a yellow color. Or I could change it back to no fill. You can also select the alignment of the cell here, so you can put in center, right align, left align, top align, middle align, bottom align. And you can also change the angle of the cell, so you can change the way that the text is displayed vertically, horizontally, or so on. And you can also change the indent. So these are all really simple things that you will have seen previously in another program like Word or PowerPoint or something like that. Now the next two buttons along here at the top, wrap text and merge and center. So what you can do is you can select several cells together. So let's say that you actually had a really long piece of text to write and you wanted it to cover a wider section of the page. You could select 4 columns across, for example here, and you could click on merge and center, and it would make that range that you selected from A1 to D1 into a single cell, and that cell is still referred to as A1. So I'm just going to click undo at the top there. The other great thing that you can do is something called wrap text, and wrap text will change the height of the row to match the text that you have put into the cell. So if I write hello world, you can see that it overlaps the edge of the column here. If I click on wrap text, you'll see that will now put that onto a separate line but within the same cell. Now I'll just undo that. Now usually when you're typing within a cell, you'll see that the text is displayed as a single line. So if I typed a sentence here, like a quick brown fox jumped over a lazy dog, you can see that that's come up as a single line of text. So another thing that you might want to do in Excel is add a new line within your cell. So if you're adding a long piece of text like this, you might want to split it over 2 lines, just like you might do in Word. But the problem is that if you click into the part of the cell where you'd like to add in a new row and you hit enter, like you might do in Word, it doesn't have the same effect because enter is what you use to click out of the cell. So what you need to do is click into the part of the cell where you'd like to add the new line and hold down Alt and hit enter. And you can see that it's done it, but from the view we have right now, you can't quite see that. On the right hand side here, there's a little arrow that's going to expand the formula bar just here, and you can see that it has actually added it as a new line. So because the width of this column is so small, you can see it's actually added it in as more than one row of text. But what we can do is, if I hover the mouse in between columns A and B, you can see the cursor changes, and I can hold down the mouse button and drag that to the right to increase the width of the column, and if I increase it far enough, you'll see it puts the text onto 2 lines like I've told it to. One other brief thing to cover in this lesson is formatting the type of data that you're entering into the cell. So here we've entered text into the cell. There are obviously many types of things you might want to add into a cell in Excel. So a number, for example, you could enter a monetary value. So I might want to say 100 as in $100. If I want to actually convert that into dollars, I can actually click on the dollar sign that's just here, or I can drop down and click on sterling if you're looking at the UK, or euros, or other currencies too. So I'll click on dollars there, and you can see it's changed it to $100. There's lots of other different kinds of formatting that you can do, and we're going to cover that later on in the course. But there are some really quick options just here. If you click on this drop down, you can see you can save it as a regular type of number with 2 decimal points at the end, currency like we've just done, accounting, which is almost identical to a currency value, a short date. So if I was to add a date in here, I might say the 10th of October 2014, hit enter. So you can see straight away that Excel has converted this into a number rather than a date, which is not what we wanted to do. That might seem a little bit strange to you, but the way that dates work in Excel is that Excel sees a date as a number. And the number for a date is the number of days since, I think, the 1st of January 1900. So the number you see in that cell means that it's 41,922 days since the 1st of January 1900. That's irrelevant. What you actually want to do is go into the drop-down list just here and select date. And you can see it's changed the date format there for us. Or I could select a long date and it will put Friday the 10th of October 2014 in there for us. A couple of other ones here as well. Time, you can add a percentage, fraction, scientific, or text like the original thing we entered. So lots of options there. It's really straightforward. Just make sure that if you're entering a date that you do separate it with forward slashes and you don't attempt to write it out as text. Otherwise Excel doesn't recognize it as a date, it just thinks it's text. Really, really important point, and it's a mistake that a lot of people make when they use Excel.